Sherlock Holmes. Does he ever stop being not fun to talk about? No, I don't think so. Hello guys, welcome, or if you've already seen my channel before, welcome back. I'm the Philadelphia Hoovian, and yes guys, Happy New Year! 2020 is over, and 2021 can begin. I hope it's a lot better this time around. I seriously hope so, guys. Really hope so. And for those of you guys who are new to my channel, yes, guys, I am one of those sad, degenerate YouTubers who sits in front of the camera and just talks. Yes, guys, no fancy title sequence, no incredible video, oh no, just me and my ugly mug of a face staring at you. I'm sorry, guys, and that's all I got. I even tried to make a title sequence for this video. Yes, I tried to make a title sequence, and it was absolutely awful, and yeah, it did not work out. And for those of you guys who are not new to my channel, and you've seen my channel before, and you're like, wait, something's really bad with this camera. Something is absolutely wrong. Guys, you're totally right. My camera broke. And this is the camera on the computer I have. This is the only way I can deliver a video. So this pretty much is looking like the end of my YouTube career because I am very aware this probably is not good to look at. I acknowledge it. It's probably my voice is probably even very off. Like, I bet you the recording is terrible. And look at that. I'm pretty sure this is distracting when it comes to hand motions. I can't even get my hand moving in a good way. So I admit, guys, I know this is absolutely horrible to look at, and I'm not much to look at as it is, so there's nothing going on for you to enjoy this video. But I didn't want to just end my YouTube channel without saying a farewell, so guys, please forgive me, but this video, I just had to give it because I want to at least say goodbye. And yes, I'm sorry. No more cameras. They've all broken on me. I'm sick of technology hurting my feelings. So, and I don't want to give you videos where I'm like this. No, y'all deserve better than this. You deserve so much better than this. I still want to give a nice farewell. So, yes, without further ado, let's get into that beautiful thing called The Return of Sherlock Holmes. What the Chicago Sun-Times called as Jeremy Brett being the definitive Sherlock Holmes, and my God, yes, he is. And guys, here's the funny thing about this, or the wonderful thing. This was a present for me from someone over in England who knew that I had not known about Jeremy Brett's take as Sherlock Holmes. And so he bought it for me and sent it to me from England, and it is the most beautiful thing in the world. I thank you so much. I absolutely love it. I love you so much. You are absolutely wonderful, and I owe you a great deal. He knew I was feeling very sad about the death of Sherlock Holmes at the end of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So he got me this to make me feel better, and I thank you so much. So, guys, before we begin our ranking, make it very clear I have always loved Sherlock Holmes ever since I was a little kid and I saw The Great Mouse Detective, which, if you are a child, is a fantastic way of getting into Sherlock Holmes. And I've loved almost everything Sherlock Holmes oriented ever since. Even another present I got from my beautiful friend in England, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Yes, the black and white version. Love it! And Steven Spielberg presents The Young Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, I really should have done a video on this. My bad, the things that will never happen. Hmm? And things inspired by Sherlock Holmes. House MD, where you got Hugh Laurie as Sherlock Holmes. Yes, it's awesome. You know it is. And then, of course, the Sherlock Holmes, the Guy Ritchie one, with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, also equally awesome. And then, what I call my favorite modern Sherlock Holmes, The Elementary with Johnny Lee Miller as the incredibly great performance as Sherlock, and Lucy Liu doing a great job as Dr. Watson. So awesome. And if you want to be really, really like, Lucy to it, let's be honest, sometimes even the Doctor is literally like a Sherlock Holmes type of character. And let's not forget Stephen Moffat's Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman as Holmes and Watson. So yes, there have been many fantastic takes on Sherlock Holmes over the years, but maybe, just maybe, Jeremy Brett will probably always be my ultimate favorite. So without further ado, guys, let's get into a ranking of this series because you know it is awesome in every conceivable way. Sorry, guys, I was being very weird there, wasn't I? I was like dancing around. I'm sorry, guys, and I'm sure like there was like what was happening? It was like a psychedelic dream, probably with all the the back and forth and the lack of good, precise camera work here. I know, guys. Sorry, I was just so happy. All right, so now without further ado, let's get into this ranking. Coming in at number 11, we have the Priory School. Okay, this is a very good episode. It's the Priory School is set in a school in the royal country where a little boy was taken from the school and his father is a very important man. So he has a little boy. He woke up one day, he's not there anymore, so it's wondering about did the little boy leave to go home to his mother because his parents divorced, or was he kidnapped? And the truth, of course, is a great deal dark. My only problem with this story, because everything else about it is very great, he's the villain itself. The actor playing the villain was very good. He just needed a little bit more time with him to really feel what sparked this person into being a villain. We're told why he is a villain, but still, it's just would have been a little bit. We just need a little bit more. But still, great story. Coming in at number 10, we have, I believe, the second to last story of the series, The Musgrave Ritual. Now, the Musgrave Ritual is also set out in the country. This really brings to home Sherlock Holmes's apprehensions about the country life. He's like, yeah, crime happens there and it actually feels more dangerous to him, which makes sense because the evil there is an evil you often cannot see. Okay, so the Musgrave Ritual, with Sherlock and Watson going out to visit a country estate where it is Sherlock Holmes's old school friend. They weren't that close, but Sherlock accepts the invitation anyway. They go there, and there is a steward or like a valet or a housekeeper. He is a John Juan sort of character, John Juan sort of character, where he's a bit of a womanizer, where he was set to marry one woman, but then he just throws her over, and now he's shagging up with another woman. Yeah, it's not hard to be when you're in a country estate and there's not slim pickings when it comes to romance. But also, he's an intense historian, and he's absolutely fascinated by the Musgrave Ritual. This is a paper that is like a treasure hunt, where it gives you instructions on where to find an incredible treasure. And the guy shows up dead, and they wonder why, but they find out exactly why he did so. But here's the thing about this. It's actually a lot more interesting and more compelling than you would find. It's about finding out this treasure. So it's actually a treasure hunt as well as a murder mystery. And I like that. Here's an interesting thing about the story, though. There's a woman in this, the woman that he was initially going to marry. Um, She's Welsh, and this is something I've heard when it comes to the Sherlock Holmes as well as Miss Marple of the Welsh being described as spirited and passionate people who are fueled on their passions. Like you have it here where they just are full of sensibility as opposed to sense. And then in Miss Marple, in the story The Moving Finger, there's two Welsh characters too, and there's a Welsh female, and then she gets referred to with all that Welsh passion just bubbling over. Is this a generalization put on the Welsh? Is this like a thing over there, over the pond? Help me out here. I don't think I've ever met anyone from Wales. I've met English people and Scottish people, but never Welsh people. So is this a thing? Help me out here. I'm trying to understand. I really am trying to understand. Is this a thing? Is this how they are described as being? Um, Even if that's the case, hey, more power to them. I mean, guys, I'm black. I love passion. I love spirit. So yeah, if you Welsh are like that, go Welsh people. I love people with gusto and charisma and spirit and passion. I love it. Can't stand cold prudence. All right, so next up is number 9. Sorry for that weird tangent. I'm sorry about that. Number 9. Okay, and number 9 we have an episode called Silver Blaze. Here's the thing. This would go on to also be inspired by an episode be inspired by it in season 2 of Elementary. Silver Blaze is a racehorse, one of the best race horses ever at the time, and he's missing. They wake up one day, he's not in the stables, and the overseer who looked after him is eventually found dead on the field. So it's a matter of thinking that he got the overseer got killed protecting the horse, but it's actually more complicated than you think. It's all down to who did capture Silver Blaze, who took him, and where is Silver Blaze. And eventually Holmes finds out how the overseer or how the stable hand got killed, as well as who did indeed take Silver Blaze. It's just a unique story. Like it's something I would not have expected. But yeah, it's really cool. I like what they did with it in the modernization of elementary. It's just a good idea and it works. Ta-da. So next we have up is number 8. Number 8, oh, demonic feeling, eerie, the devil's foot. Now Sherlock and Watson go to Cornwall, England for a bit of R&R. Holmes is sick, so he's there for a little bit of rest and resuscitation, or rehabilitation, whenever R and R you want to translate that R and R as. Sorry. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. And so while he's there, he's supposed to be there just to rest. Oh, but no. There's a murder mystery that happens while he is there. And the vicar comes to him because the vicar, the servant, a maid who tended on 3 people who were living at an estate, came to the room to see 2 of the brothers completely mad, foaming at the mouth, their minds are comatose. And the sister, who's this lovely, gorgeous woman, she's dead. She was devastated. And there's only one surviving relative in the family, one brother who was not there at the time. And in this family, there was a bit of a breaking out. This is when the parents passed away, there was an inheritance, and there was some debate on how the money would be distributed. And that led to some tensions rising, arguments happening, etc., and so forth. And was this death diabolical or was it more scientific? It would turn out to be more scientific. And this is a story of taking the law sometimes into your own hands, not waiting for justice, but no, executing justice on the spot. And this is where we also once again see Sherlock Holmes taking justice, yes, into his own hands when it comes to the distribution of what is right and what is fair. And once again, we see Jeremy Brett excelling in the role of Sherlock Holmes. So that's my number 8. Now down to number 7. Unless my numbers are completely wrong. Number 7, we have the Abbey Grange, which I think is the second story in the season. I think it is in the volume, the Abbey Grange. It starts out with Holmes and Watson being called out to a country estate, and there is a man there. He is the head of the household. He's the owner of the establishment. He's the master. His head was bashed in. He was murdered, and his wife, she was beaten up and tied to a chair. She claims that there was a set of criminals in the area who were known. She claimed it was those men who did it. And it turns out, nope, she was lying. It's actually a lot more complicated than that. But no, she's not the villain. It turns out she's a victim of very painful circumstances. And she lied to protect someone. And once again, this is where we see Sherlock Holmes step away from the law and take matters into his own hands, showing how Sherlock does obey the law, but he also obeys his own conscience at the same time. He's always looking for that balance and reaching that balance. Very good story. That's another thing about this season. It was really hard to rank this series because all the stories were kind of on par with each other. It's more about subjectivity, it's about your personal preferences. So there it is, just to explain why my list will be different than yours if you even have a list. Next week is number 6, the very first episode in the series, The Empty House. And this is where we get into something I love talking about, the recasting of Dr. Watson. Okay, so The Empty House is the very first story. It starts out with Watson still recovering from the fact that 2 years or 2.5 or 3 years ago, his best friend Sherlock Holmes died, defeating his arch nemesis Moriarty. And Holmes has recovered from this experience, but by God, of course, it's taken a toll on him. It's been 2 years. Yes, he's recovered. Yes, he's a doctor, but he still remembers his dear old friend Sherlock. But it turns out Holmes was not dead at all the entire time. He returns to Dr. Watson, and it turns out he was protecting Watson this entire time because he had to literally conceal who he was or if he was alive to snuff out the rest of Moriarty's accomplices. So we see the return of Sherlock Holmes, also the recasting of Dr. Watson. In The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Watson was played by a talented actor, David Burke. But David stopped doing this and want to come back for the return of Sherlock Holmes, not for any other reason except for the fact that he wanted to spend time with his family. And this is, hard on Jeremy Brett and hard on everybody else who loved him as Watson. But David Burke, he was like, no, don't worry. I'm going to find a perfect replacement for my character and to be there for Jeremy. And he's recommended actor Edward Hardwicke. And what would go down in history to me as the smoothest recastings of a character ever. Literally, David Burke was friends with an actor who looked a lot like himself to play Dr. Watson. When you watch The Empty House, I literally leaned forward and said, I thought the character was recast. This is still David Burke. I had to blink and look really closely and realize, no, this is an actor who looks just like David Burke. David Burke was friends with an actor who looked like himself and recommended him for Dr. Watson when he wanted to leave. It's incredible. Literally, you have to blink and then you'll realize, oh my god, they're not the same actor. Smoothest recasting ever. And Edward just immediately adapts to the role very quickly. Holmes, and this is where we see, just damn it. Okay, in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Jeremy Brett was phenomenal, amazing as Holmes. Somehow, some way, he upped himself and became even more amazing. It's astounding, but from the second you see him, you see an actor at the top of his craft. It's incredible. Next we have up is, I believe, wait, what number are we on? I think we're number five. Are we number five? Are we? Are we number five? I'll go with it. Number five, Wisteria Lodge. Okay, this time a client comes to Watson and Holmes because he's a very social man who goes to, make friends, and they invite him to their houses to enjoy their food. And he went to one man's house who boasted of having a very, very good cook. And it goes there. The house is not the best looking house. The cook is horrible. The cooking is terrible. The service is horrible. He spends the night there, wakes up the next morning. No one is there. And the host, who was tending to him the day before, he shows up dead a couple miles away from the house. This is a great story because it shows the idea of what happens when you're in a nation when there's a person from a different nation who is corrupt, is horrible in every way. It can feel so foreign to what's going on in your nation that you don't even know about it until it comes into your country. And that's what this is happening. There's a conspiracy here. Oh yes, there is. But it's people trying to overthrow and destroy someone, a villain who escaped all of his crimes from a different country and brought it to Britain, and they pursued him in Britain, trying to overcome and destroy this awful monarch. And there's a female character in here. She is absolutely wonderful, iconic character played by a great actress. Really very cool. It's just also it's very different, and it again touches on the idea of sometimes when it comes to your own nation, you're a little bit blind to what's happening in other nations. And it shows how sometimes you don't even concern yourself with what's happening in other cultures until it affects your own. And this is something that can happen in any nation. It is just a universal idea. Sorry, a universal idea. And so it's just a very, very unique story. Next up is number four, I believe. And it is, yes, the Six Napoleons. Yes, the Six Napoleons. Another interesting story. Starts out with, I believe, a brother and sister arguing very violently on the man's part. And I believe they're speaking in Italian. And they're clearly arguing over something, and this has elements of The Godfather in it. Yeah, I crap you not. This has elements of The Godfather in it. And the brother, in his anger, he leaves and he goes to see a man who's working in a sculpting shop, and they get into a fight. And at the same time, there's no subtitles here, so you're not entirely sure what's happening. You know they hate each other, and they get into a knife fight. And the guy who works in the sculpting shop stabs the brother. goes into the shop to escape being arrested. He gets arrested, goes to prison for a year, and then, a little while later, six Napoleon busts who were made at this sculpting shop were sold to people in England, and someone is going into their houses, taking the Napoleon bust, bashing on the ground and destroying it. This is initially considered a mania, where of contempt or hatred for Napoleon is so intense, people are going to the houses to destroy any bust of Napoleon. But Holmes, he's like, oh no, there's a different scheme afoot. And turns out very much there is. And again, elements of The Godfather totally in this. Oh yeah. So it's very unique. I did not see it coming whatsoever. Next up is, I think, are we at number three now? I'm going for it. I'm going to say we're at number three. The Bruce Partington Plans. This is another one of those stories that centers around important political documents that have been stolen. Two men come to Sherlock Holmes because these plans have been stolen by a clerk who worked in the location where the plans have been configured. And he's accused of being the one who stole the plans, but he gets murdered. So he gets murdered by what they assume are the man's partner, who he was going to sell the plans to. That turns out not to be the case at all. And it's all about how well do you know your family. So yes, it's actually a very, great story. Again, I love these stories that deal with, papers being stolen in homes, having to track where these papers are and possibly locate them before they lead to an outward scandal. And speaking of stolen political papers, we get down to number two. Number two on this list, the second stain. Yes, once again, two gentlemen, two political officials come to Sherlock Holmes to report stolen documents that were taken from the man's house. Yes, these documents he took with him, but when he was home, he kept them stored away safely. So, how could they have possibly gotten stolen? It turns out they were not initially stolen for money, they were stolen to cover up a past mistake. It's about retrieving those documents. The documents do eventually return back to their proper place without any scandal ensuing. But it's again, how well do you know your family? And next we have up is number one. I'm sure you would have known what it is by process of elimination. Number one, the man with a twisted lip. Now, for you guys, this might not be your number one choice, but I love it because it's just so unique. I did not see it coming. So, Watson is working, and a friend of his comes to him because her husband. Oh, there's my cat in the background, by the way. She was probably there the entire time, and I just didn't notice. My bad. Sorry. The man with the twisted lip. Okay. So, yes, there is a Watson. He goes to an opium house to retrieve a friend of his because the wife is looking for him because he's disappeared for 48 hours. While there, he comes across Holmes, who was investigating something. What was Holmes investigating? Well, a client had come to him, a woman, because her husband was missing. You see, she was in town one day, or like, in the center of town, running errands, and she happened to walk down a side street where there was the opium houses, and there were a lot of beggars in this street, beggars, corner, etc. and so forth. She goes there and she happens to look up, and in a window on the second floor is her husband, who's this very gentlemanly man. And he looks down at her in shock. Someone grabs him by the head, throws him into the room, and he shouts. So she sees that he's clearly being kidnapped. She goes inside the house. She gets pushed out of the house under the excuse that no one is there. She comes back with police and does indeed find her husband's clothing in there, even though she doesn't find his jacket. So about finding out, where is this husband? Is he dead? Is he alive? A letter was even sent by him saying he is perfectly fine. But it could have always been written he could have been killed afterwards. Eventually, Holmes does find who he is, and turns out no crime had been committed the entire time. Yeah. very, very, very unique. And that's why I like it. It's just such a, it ends in such a unique way. And I just really overall quite enjoyed that. So, guys, thank you so very much for watching. Hope you somehow were able to sit through this video in the incredibly horrible, horrible camera work. And for all I know, the audio could have been absolutely horrible. I'm sorry if it is, guys. I just did not want to not say goodbye. But at the same time, even though I had plenty of other ideas for videos, I know this is not what you guys deserve. It's a bad looking video. You guys deserve better, so at least I could give you a nice farewell. Guys, hopefully we'll see each other again, maybe talking on other people's YouTube channels, etc. and so forth, but I know, yes, you're worthy of more than this. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a happy new year. Oh, 2021 treat you very well. Guys, it was wonderful. And I'll see you all around.